First, guys, is part 3 here with Catherine. This episode, though, has discussions of trauma and recovery that some viewers may find distressing. So, today, Catherine shares her path to recovery, focusing on self-care, rebuilding friendships, and the power of education and understanding domestic violence. Her story demonstrates how healing, while challenging, is definitely always possible. Choices. We have choices. You can do it. Catherine did it, and she wants to share it. Thank you for joining us on Leading Our Own Way. Here's part 3 with Catherine. Please go back to part 1 and 2 if you did miss any. Here's the episode with Catherine.
I had to move a certain way around my house. I couldn't even bend down to pick up a dish out of the dishwasher because he would see that I wasn't bleeding because I wasn't wearing a sanitary pad. And then he would say, upstairs. And then I would take a deep breath. And then I'd be like, what are you talking about? Trying to play stupid. And he'd be like, do you want the olive oil on the bed or do you want the conditioner in the shower? What's it going to be? And then I would say to him, you know what? You've been an asshole to me all day and that's the best you've got. And then he would crack it because I didn't say yes to sex, because that was his offer and exchange, because I was simply bending forward in front of him, unstacking the dishwasher. So I couldn't even wear something like jeans in front of him and bend forward. So from that moment on, I squatted. So I wasn't bending forward to pick up dishes out of the dishwasher so he wasn't triggered or turned on, because in that moment, in that particular moment when I was picking up the dishes, I had only stopped bleeding for a couple of hours. Now, I'm going to explain why, because this might sound a little bit extreme to people as to why I reacted that way. So I had endometriosis and fibroids. So I had a fibroid the size of an orange in my uterus. So the average weight of a uterus is about 50 to 60 grams. When they removed my uterus and cervix through a hysterectomy, it was actually 500 grams. Now, the surgeon at the time actually said to me, no wonder you were in so much pain, because this is just an extraordinary find what we've had here. So I was in excruciating pain every single time we had sex, and he didn't care about that. Now, I bled, this is getting quite graphic, I bled on average 3 weeks a month, where I was recovering for 1 week, but I was still in pain for that 1 week. Now, there were some months where I didn't stop bleeding, and I think there was from 1 September until December the 26th. So there was a good 3 or so months where I didn't stop bleeding every single day. Now, the pivotal person that helped me through this, she's a doctor. And I went out to lunch with her, and I actually, because she's a friend of mine, I don't use her for her, for a trade. She's a friend of mine. I don't want to talk about my health with a doctor. It's that sort of thing. So, but I said the comment, I'm really grateful that I can be here today and actually sit here in front of you, because I haven't been able to leave the house for about 2 weeks. And she's put her cutlery down on the plate and she's gone, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, I can't leave the house at the moment because I'm bleeding so much. And she's gone, why are you normalizing this? Because that's not normal. Why do women do this? And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting point. And then she started to ask more and more questions. And then she described the fact that I was flooding. So when I stood up, it was like I had to change my clothes several times a day because of the amount of blood. It was horrific, that what I was living with. And who I was living with at the time knew this, saw that, and he knew that I was in a lot of excruciating pain. He saw what I went through. And yet I stopped bleeding for a couple of hours and he still wanted to fuck me. And he didn't care that it was hurting. And when I was crying, he didn't stop. He said, it will be over and done with soon. And when I looked up into the corner of the room and I had to disconnect my mind to my body because of the amount of pain that I was in, he started getting upset how absent-minded I looked, that I wasn't looking him in the eyes, that I wasn't making this spiritual connection. So there was a lot of pressure every single day. There was a lot of pressure with how I moved in my house. So I realized 2 weeks after he left that I actually danced for the first time. Well, I didn't dance with him. I actually danced for the first time 2 weeks after he left. I had some music on and I was just dancing around the kitchen, and I realized I'm actually free to move around my house. So there's a lot of anchors that I have learnt. And, you know, if I was to drive up the driveway and picture how I would feel walking into that house right now after breaking up with him, that's the sensation that I felt, that I didn't feel safe in my own house, that I couldn't move in my own house. That's how I felt. And there's a difference between the reality and the potential. And you have to always focus on the reality, because what you thought you wanted didn't exist. And the guilt that you're feeling through disconnecting with that person is your heart being projected onto that moment. You wanted it to be good. You wanted it to work, but it couldn't work. And it's devastating in on itself. But how can you make it work? How can you make it work when they purposely try and misunderstand you? When they don't care about your well-being, and he admitted it? What can you do with that?
Not much.
And that's the anchors that you need to keep remembering, because the guilt after a breakup is you projecting your heart onto the situation, not the reality of it.
How did this affect other aspects of your life? You've painted a pretty good picture of how it affected you inside the house and what it felt. I mean, I can feel the tension of how you lived inside there from the words that you chose and some of the images that you painted. But did it affect work? Did it affect your relationship with your family? Or, how was getting up, just going to work like every day?
Okay, so with my family, I didn't see my family for a good 6 years because there was a rift between him and my father. So I didn't actually see them for Christmases. I think there was a 21st. I don't think there was a wedding. There wasn't a wedding in that time, but there was many anniversaries that I missed out on. And in that absence was when I started to really respect my father. I really started to respect him. Because going back to the childhood and like the question that you wanted to ask me about my childhood, I spent a majority of my adolescence being just really angry about what happened in my childhood, but not understanding that when I was a baby, when I was a toddler, when I was a child, a teenager, a 20-something-year-old, a 30-something-year-old, my parents are learning as they go. They're doing my dad was doing the best he could. And I should honor that, because he is a very good man, and I respect him very much. And with observing him and with what I lived with and what I went through, I say this quite often, that I don't hate men. I don't actually hate them at all. And because you can't blanket all men to be the same because of what happened with him.
Of course.
I grew up observing fantastic men in my life, beautiful examples of who they are, and they've been consistent for decades, of the same character, morals, characteristics, the same ethics. Everything is all the same. and they've been consistent, and it's not just a phase, and it's not just, they're trying to impress people and then the real them comes out. They're really good men. So am I going to categorize all of these good examples of what I've known in my life and who still exist in my life today? I've got some incredible men in my life. Am I going to categorize them as the same as my ex and put them all together in a pigeonhole going, all men are the same? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to them, because they deserve better because of who they are. And you know how to categorize people that way, and you know what to do with that. So, yeah, there's been a lot that I've learned, and I do verbalize that, because you do have friends, you do have your male and female friends that do give opinions, and I hate all men, whatever it may be. They're angry with the circumstance, but if I was to say that, then my ex wins, and he never had control of my mind. He could never crack that.
That's good.
And I'm grateful for that, because I don't hate all men. Now, it's interesting because with what happened and what happened after we broke up, there was interesting rumors that started spreading. So one of the rumors was that I broke up with him to explore my escorting career, and that I slept with all of my customers, and that I had relationships with all of my customers. What else? That's right. I pressured him into watching me have orgies, and he felt so uncomfortable with it. Yet I know through other sources that he was pressuring people to do that, and it doesn't line up. So I was called a coke slut, a crack whore. What else is there? I was sleeping with my lawyers, apparently. So I was sleeping with my I know, I can just see it in your face. I was sleeping with my lawyers to do favors, like to pay my way through sexual favors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I say to you that I respect men, and if my ex ever sees this interview, no, just because I respect them doesn't mean I sleep with them, because I know how to admire someone without wanting to fuck them.
Yeah, of course. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So the viewers normally know at this point what you do as a whole as well. You've painted obviously a very good picture about, it was a very bad picture, but you know what I mean, about your personal sense. What did you do outside of the house and outside of that relationship? What did you do for a living? Just so we can get a whole view of you as a person, as an individual.
While I was in the situation?
Yeah. And lead up till the present moment as well.
Okay, so while I was in the situation and while I left the situation, what was I doing? Okay, so while I was in the situation, I was very isolated. So there was physical isolation with moving to a location where it was an added 45 minutes on top of any drive. There was losing all of my friends, especially male friends. So a tactic was that he would befriend them, then the friendship would become about them, and then there would be a split. So that happened to a couple of them, and I couldn't have any male friends, and especially the strong women in my life. He created a void with that. But I've reconnected with so many people after the breakup. I've actually lost count. And a lot of them were just waiting for me to break it off with him. For an example, my cousin, he just sent one line to me, "I miss my cousin." And I said, "I miss you too." And when I went to catch up with him, he had 2 grown children that I'd never met. And one of them, she was just hanging off me the first time she met me. And she's adorable. And I thought to myself, I've missed out on this because you insulted him. He actually insulted my cousin to the point where my cousin couldn't stand him and he had to break that off. So I missed out on so much. And, going back to what it was like, I was very isolated because physically I couldn't really move all that much because of the endometriosis and fibroids and whatnot. I couldn't actually move because I couldn't go on holidays. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't plan anything because if I went on a plane, heaven forbid, what would happen. So I was very much isolated and I couldn't move all that much. So in many ways that was used to his advantage as well.
With with the problems with not being able to move and what you were going through, were you able to go to work and do your normal daily things though?
I was able to go to work, but at work there was concrete floors. So if I ever got up from the desk, it went everywhere, but I was able to run and dart to the bathroom, and then I would have a change of clothes, and then I would be able to sit back down at the desk. So
What
I was able
what did
to
you
do
do for
that.
a living?
I was actually in the automotive industry, and I've had to take a step back from that to recover from the last 14, 15 years because physically and emotionally I'm actually exhausted from it and very depleted from it all. And it's quite interesting when you start to put yourself first, how people, when they see you as a person that has strength, it's like they have a paradigm of observation when it comes to your character. And when you start to put yourself first, it kind of, it puts them off. It puts them out of place because they don't know what to do with that. So I've put myself first for once, and I need to recover from what has happened. My nervous system is starting to feel better. Everything is starting to feel better. I'm feeling the best I ever have in my life. I'm feeling very at peace, very happy, but there is still the hooks from the past in my back if I was to continue working in that industry. And I had to stop it. I had to stop it at all costs because it was just absolutely draining me. And now that I've put myself first, it's interesting because, I now understand people who are in my circle. This is where I've explained after what happens, it's really important who you choose to have in your circle. So when I've decided to do this big step forward, you have a circle around you of people who are very close to you. They have full access to you. They're the ones that you would call at 2 a.m. in the morning and they would literally be there for you. I've had a friend that was in the middle of a uni lecture and I've called her and she's gone, I'm coming. And I've gone, no, you're in a lecture. And she's gone, fuck you. I'm on my way to see you. That's it. I'm coming to help you. And she's literally stopped, walked out of a lecture, and she's come to be by my side. Now she's stuck with me for life because she's a keeper. So that's the kind of people that you have in your circle. They will literally do anything for you and you can be yourself. They see the warts and all. They see the good and the bad side to you. They know you back to front and there's no judgment. And vice versa. It's reciprocated that way. And then you have the circle outside of that with your friendships. So you can have, say, you can invite these friends to a gathering or you can catch up with them for a coffee or whatever it may be. And that's the category of friendship that you've got. But they never step the line into the full access of who you are. And then you have the line outside of that, which is associates, which is people that you may be acquainted with, which is people that you might say hello to and be very pleasant to. And that's how I've able to divide where I sit people based on where I'm at right now. And the people that I have full access to, I literally call them straight away. And I remember when I first broke it off, one of the most powerful techniques that I had was to find humor in the moment. So say that the incident or that the accusation or the lying or the rumors had potency to it. They had power. And then I would call up one of my friends and she's got this beautiful way of just flipping it upside down. And it loses its power because she had me in hysterics within 30 seconds of calling her. And that took away the power and the emphasis of his control again. And just the words that came out of her mouth, it was like it just alleviated any pressure and it was done. But then it comes to the point where these feelings are going to continue to follow me no matter where I go. No matter what I do, these feelings are going to continue to creep up. Now, no matter what they are, one night I remember I didn't pick up the phone to her. I didn't pick up the phone to one of my friends, to my immediate circle, because I had to sit in it. And that was a very powerful night where I decided I need to sit in this emotion and I need to face it. I need to understand it and I need to understand why it keeps coming back. And I need to not be frightened of it and understand that the hard part's over. You lived through everything. You can live through this. It's almost like a slow punishment of still living with it if you don't face it. So again, I get frustrated with myself if I sit in it for too long and something's not serving me. The victim mentality doesn't serve me. This following me around like heavy baggage does not serve me. So I need to face it and I need to sit in it. And then you sit and you cry with it.
Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.